Well, hello and welcome. Good morning, everybody. My name is Branka Anđelković, and I'll be moderating this panel. I'm leading an organization that actually carries out research that focuses so much on so-called digital Serbia. So we explore topics in the economic, educational, and labor field, trying really to understand what is ahead of us, what is going to be our future. Today, we'll be focusing on the state of the startup or entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Serbia, but also in the region. In order to try to understand what is the current state of affairs, what are our strengths, and what is really next big thing that we are all expecting to happen here. In order to get the answers to these questions, we are having a few people that I know that be participating in this panel. And I'll start from Kosta, from the ICTHub in Belgrade. Then we'll have Vukašin, who is a founder, entrepreneur, and designer and so many other things from the StartIt, also from Belgrade, Serbia. We have Mila from Telekom, the head of the digital innovation team. And finally, we have Jan Kobler, who is one of the key players as investor in Serbia, and not only here, but also in the region. But we have a new person with us as well.
I'm Patricia Gannon. I'm an Irish lawyer who's been here for over 25 years. Some of you weren't even born 25 years ago, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what it looked like back then and the progress that's been made and how fast you need to get running to catch up with the rest of the world.
Thank you for joining us. So just before we actually begin this discussion, I wanted to show you something. That is the calculation that we did in our think tank. So we have this region here. We call it former Yugoslavia plus Albania, Greece, Bulgaria, and Romania. And you can hear it. Yeah, you saw it. There is another one. And this is Central Europe with Baltic states. So, if you would like to compare the number of startups, which means basically nothing, but just to give you a hunch how things look like, you will see that the difference is really, really small. So we have 1,264 startups in our region and 1,287 in the Central Eastern Europe and Baltic states. These are all very vague figures, but this is something to be taken into consideration. Now, look at this picture. We see that 10 countries in the region that we call ex-Yugoslavia plus 4, the number of startups are maybe not that big, but when we sum them up, we see that the region really plays prominently. And this is actually the topic of our discussion today. So, how to make this region visible to outside actors, and also what is really needed to move quickly forward. And now I'm giving floor to our panelists, and the first question is actually this one. So what are the key advantages of this region, and what do you think should be done next so that we can really accelerate growth? I'll start from Laura.
As a foreigner who's been in the country for quite a while and really share the enthusiasm of younger people here. I think coming from an unexpected place, people don't expect much from the region, and you have a huge opportunity to surprise them. And I think you should take that opportunity at every chance. I'm Irish by origin, and Ireland is another little country which people didn't expect much from 40, 50 years ago. A small agricultural country which absolutely reformed itself into a leading technology hub. And there are steps along the way that you can also practice yourselves. And as young people, the most important thing is that you're open-minded, that you have opportunities to travel, that you can speak languages, and that you work hard.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I will not address the research, but maybe just to give a kind of our overview over the region, and maybe comparing to the, let's say, last 5 years. So, if looking at the ecosystem, there are a number of stakeholders which should be included. So you have the ecosystem on the place, and I would say that we are close to have the ecosystem on the place, at least having all the stakeholders present. So just comparing to the 2014 number of hubs, infrastructure organizations who are supporting the early stage scene has grown 10, 15 times. For example, only in Belgrade you have like 30 co-working collaborative spaces, startup centers, you name it. Across Serbia, roughly 50. So for that sense, in the sense of stakeholders we didn't have 5 years ago, now we have present companies, large companies, small companies, even SMEs, Serbian medium enterprise entering. The ecosystem, a number of startups have grown. From the business side, 2018 was pretty good because we had 2 large exits of 2 companies, one from originally from Niš, Frame, and the other one from Novi Sad, which was huge for the startup scene. Speaking about the investors, there are like 3 VCs operating, let's say, domestic or half domestic operating here, but only this year, Innovation Fund, which gives basically grant money, are going to have twice as much money since comparing to the last year. So roughly around 50 startups in early stage will receive 80,000 euros of grant money, so equity-free money. What is a kind of question in which we are discussing, and ICTHub has insight because we have rather small operations in Montenegro and Bosnia, is that why are we specific for some reason? Because we now have all stakeholders in one ecosystem, but how can we compare, or what are some kind of advantages of our ecosystem comparing to the others? And that's something which is, I would say, the next vision of the growth of the ecosystem. And maybe kind of the thing that we see that is still is lacking is somebody would say, let's get more tech people, more programmers, and of course there is a huge war on talent, but we are still lacking on people deciding to take the risk, and true entrepreneurs, and on the other side the sales folks.
Save some of your thoughts for later.
Sure.
This is like a, let me see. Yeah. Okay, so this is like a speed dating. So we really need to be quick. And I'll be interrupting you guys if you really continue talking too long. So, Vukašin. Testing, yeah.
Hey, thanks. So, if we're talking about the advantages of the local ecosystem, well, we could say that at some point, let's say around 2009, 2010, you know, some of the biggest successes of today's startup ecosystem have begun operations. So let's say that would be Nordeus or Seven Bridges. And, you know, looking at that, before, you know, even the word startup was known in Serbia, the question would be, what was the sort of ingredient then? So I would say that there were 2 crises that were turned into opportunities. So on the one hand, there weren't too many opportunities for young and smart people to actually get a job in and to be fulfilled here in Serbia. So they went into tech, which could immediately sort of go to the global market where they could fully realize their potential. So that, I would say that might have been one of the reasons. Also, the fact that so many young people went abroad. Some of them came back with amazing knowledge, which they turned into successful companies. Also, they could leverage their contacts in the diaspora. Also, you know, all things being, you know, true, the education system, even though we tend to, you know, throw hate on it, has been actually fairly good even through the crisis period. So that probably contributed as well. Looking forward, So I would say that some of those crises remain to be opportunities, especially the fact that so many successful and relevant people in the Serbian diaspora are available to our startups to help them grow and connect to partners in the global markets, which are the only ones relevant here. And I would add just one more thing, which Kosta already mentioned, is the fact that the support organizations have been, springing up left and right. And even though at some point an inflation of sorts of events or programs can be not necessarily needed, overall I would think that having those organizations and having them cooperate as opposed to seeing themselves as competitors has already begun to make great positive effects, and I would expect it to be a significant driver of future growth. So, thanks.
Hello, I am representative of Big Telco, and I would like to say that we are part now of the ecosystem, and we would like to have a significant role in the future as well. Of course, we need to collaborate with all of these guys here, and also with the others, to help our startups to get to the opportunity to get investments, to get to the customer base, to maybe to test their solutions first with us on our market, and then to try to launch these solutions outside of the country. We shouldn't really think anymore only territorial. We should think more global and more international. We are working together, and we're supposed to just carry on working together to find a way what is whose role and responsibility within a team.
Thank you. And now Jan.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to be fast because I know we're tight on timing. Just looking at the past 3-4 years that we've been active in Serbia and in the region, and thinking about the advantages that I think we have. I think the biggest advantage, if I was to point out one, was in the fact that Serbia and the region, but specifically Serbia, is really becoming this powerhouse, development powerhouse of Europe. Extremely good in R&D, in product development, in designing things, but that is much more powerful if you can connect that with markets, with customers, which are not here in the region, not here in Serbia. So I think going back to what Vukašin mentioned, connecting with Serbian entrepreneurs abroad, Serbian tech entrepreneurs, and with diaspora, if I can call it that way, is really a powerful combination that can, I think, take you much longer, because we still have some cost advantages here in the region. We can play the geo arbitrage, so a euro invested in Serbia will take you, I think, 3 to 5 times further than a euro invested, for instance, in London or in New York. So I think if we can combine that, if we can make that connection, so connecting development here, product here with markets, with investors, with customers in more developed markets, I think that can be a winning combination, to put it in a nutshell.
Well, you actually mentioned everything that is needed for a great soup. So, all of you pointed out to human capital, that is one thing, to collaboration that is really needed, also to investment gap, and to strong research and development. But let me go back to human capital. Everybody is talking about so beautiful potential of our talent pool here, but at the same time, we all know that this is a shortcoming. So, Kosta or Vukašin, whoever likes to answer this question. What do you think we should do actually to transform this potential into something that we can call sustainable pool of talent?
When you say potential, you're talking about the what kind of skills you're referring to? When you're talking about potential, human capital, what kind of...
So we have human capital, we have skills, we have talented people, but the thing is also that at the same time we have so many gaps. You know, we have talent, but there are sectors where we have gaps. So how to ensure that we do continue to feed in sectors and technology and industry here with talent all the time? So what needs to be done, in your view?
I will try to sound a bit realistic. So looking at the whole region, or maybe let's say former Yugoslavia, there are not many people, so we're quite small in that sense. And lots of time we can hear that there is amazing tech talent in the region. And usually, I wouldn't say that isn't true, but those amazing guys usually end up working for companies abroad where they can actually demonstrate their expertise. But looking from my perspective, the question is how to get more people started. I was talking about taking the risks. So so there are a couple of things which could be let's say an answer to the more people in the ecosystem as entrepreneurs. So one would be people who are now service providers who would end up with a product and then develop their own startup company. Second one is how to get people a bit mature, who already have some experience in the industry. There was a recent public research which said that most successful startups founders are at the age of 43 or 44. So we are also looking how to broaden that pipeline of the people who can actually come, for example, from Telekom, maybe as a spin-off from the company, and then to work on something which they can solve as a startup. So more people, more entrepreneurs on the scene would demonstrate more potential. But to be realistic, guys, there is. I think it's a better position to start with being realistic and say that there is nothing like we are superheroes and there is, like we went through tough times, so it would mean that we could be, like.
Excellent.
Okay.
Vukašin and Mila, or Mila and Vukašin.
Please, Mila.
Yeah.
I just wanted to use the opportunity to mention these gaps. We work on the market. Telekom Serbia has 168 key account managers working with SMEs and all the other segments of business customers, and we can easily recognize the gaps. But if we make some kind of interface and giving this information about gaps to the startups and helping them to address these gaps and address these solutions directly to the market and then test it and try to sell it off. This is the way how they could actually see the gaps. Because normally startups are people that they are entrepreneurs, but that doesn't mean that they always necessarily have access to the market and they can see these gaps. But if we have some kind of connection with them, and this is why we work with the hubs like StartIt for years. These are our friends, also ICTHubs. And we are also preparing our own hub. And the idea of having a hub in New Belgrade was we have so many talented people working in outsourcing way close to our hub in New Belgrade. And our hub is located between Milutina Milenkovic, where all the software development companies exist, and also between bank and all telco companies. So we are in the epicenter of all these different part of the ecosystem that we need to recognize what is needed in the market. So I think we should help startups to recognize what is needed. This is my personal opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, just a short reply on talent gaps that I see. We've invested in 25 companies over the past 3 years, 14 out of those in Serbia, and all of those companies have great products. They have development, they have great products. But the ones that are successful have also a sense of business development, sales, soft skills, storytelling, narrative. And I think this is what is missing. The region is very technical, extremely technical, and what needs to be, I don't know, imported or done in a different way is the capacity to build sales skills and this kind of more extrovert capabilities.
Thank you, and this actually leads us to next question, and Vukašin will answer many others that I'll have for him. We also did some other calculations just to show you where region plays prominently before, how much money, no, a slide before. Okay, so as you can see, Genome report points out that there are few most hottest sectors at this point of time that can really yield phenomenal returns. And Serbia and the rest of the countries that we mentioned, you can see the sectors are here. So gaming, we all know that we are good at this. Big data, digital media, robotics, and that tech are actually sectors where we have a strong say. Nevertheless, human capital needed for further advancement of these sectors is for sure needed, and also investment is needed for this. So I'll then go back to Mila and ask her what she thinks needs to be done, given that potential is there, but investment is not so much present. And then I'll again ask Jan the same question.
Yes. You know, this 4.0 buzzword about digital transformation, we are producing a lot of buzzwords, especially telco guys. And we all the time talk about AI, VR, AR, whatever. I mean, blockchain is raising up. I really would like to not to mention those, just as a joke. If we know what will make money, I would personally, if I knew that, I would personally immediately start funding the startup. The idea of what Jan just mentioned, and I would really like to hand over to Vukašin, is how to make environment where our startups will be able to access to the money that's supposed to come wherever from. It's not about technology. Technology is there. With 5G, you will have ultra low latency, ultra high speed, massive machine type of communication, IoT, sensor all around, big data analytics. So a lot of startups will have what to do and how to bring innovation to our portfolio or portfolio of our business customers, also to address consumer types.
But the
answer is we need to solve the barriers that we have at the moment and to work together to bring money in. Okay. That's it. And
Patricia,
how?
and then Jan.
Thank you so much, Mila. I do think that Jan could provide a better perspective on this particular question. So,
yeah, just shortly. I mean, I think we need to stop counting unicorns, and the way we see it, I think what's investable and what makes sense for us is businesses solving problems for other businesses. So I think there is, we're kind of losing a sense of common sense in appraising investment opportunities. And yeah, there are these buzzwords, there are these sectors that everyone keeps talking about. I'm not sure, I mean, at least sometimes I don't understand what they all mean. But I think a startup needs to start thinking about the customer, to start from the customer's perspective. What problem am I solving for whom? And then that's a starting point. And not develop a product that I'm developing because I like it or because I'm in love with it.
And Patricia?
Looks like we have one microphone. We represent, as a law firm, over many years, investors coming into every sector in the country. So whether it's large privatizations or infrastructure work. And about 10, 12 years ago, I was part of the team that started looking seriously at startups and technology, simply because it was very international, and we represent international clients. And it's a wonderful opportunity for you here in Serbia today to extend yourself to an international world. You're part of an international world, and you need to be more actively involved in it. On behalf of the foreign investors coming in, most of them are very afraid still to invest in a small company in Serbia. You have risk because you're young and because you're a startup and they don't even know where you're from. That's the first risk you have to overcome. So you need to be seriously, seriously good. You need to be seriously organized and structured about how you present yourself, and you need advice. You cannot be all things to all people. You need to get good advisors who will support you along the journey, whether it's accountants, tax advisors, marketing people, and I'm afraid to say it, lawyers. Whether you like it or not, they're going to be on the table. When somebody's giving you money, they're going to be there with their lawyers, so you need to have yours. You need to be prepared, you need to be organized, you need your documents in place, you need your shareholders agreement, you need your legal company, you need to know where your markets are, and you need lawyers there too. So it's an integrated, connected world, and people who are able to bridge that gap and integrate and connect well will be the ones that come out doing well in the end. Serbia, unfortunately, today still suffers from a little bit of, fear, and it's still early days. Let's put it in the European accession project and whatever. Investors like to see corporate vehicles in other countries. So you could have your main business here, but you might have a Delaware corporation, or you might have a European corporation somewhere else, and they'll put the funding into that. So getting organized day one, when you have everything else to do, you're full with so many other activities, getting, as we say, your ducks in a row, getting yourself structured and organized to be ready to get that money when it comes is as important as having a product to sell.
Thank you so much. Nevertheless, I totally agree with all of you, but there is a kind of a notion or thinking that the region needs unicorns to become visible to other parts of the world and to other investors. So common sense actually points out, and this is again the formula that we'll show later, but the common sense points out to these successful stories which actually emanate and go to the space of investing planets. And I want to ask you guys, what do you think? What is really behind the successes of these several enterprises that have been sold or are going to be sold for relatively decent amounts? So Jan, what is your question?
Yeah, my quick opinion. I think these are very different companies looking, for instance, either UiPath or Outfit 7, so very different sectors, different models, obviously. So I couldn't judge on gaming because I think it's Outfit 7 was a completely organic play, so no VC funding, but again, with gaming, I'm not sure really what cracks the code. But I think with the B2B companies, what's really important and what's probably, there are a lot of differentiating factors coming from the team, from the product, many other things. But if I was to point out one, it was probably their ability to connect with the markets where customers are and connect with the markets where relevant investors and networks are. Because again, no one's going to build a big company sitting in Belgrade or in Novi Sad or in Niš. So you need to travel, you need to go out, you need to talk, you need to have many meetings, you need to be in many places at many times to be at the right place at the right time. So I think that's probably something that I would point out with the success factors in the region.
Patricia, from a legal point of view, do you have any advice or do you have any insights when it comes to the companies that we're discussing now?
For sales, they've done very well. They've obviously been well advised along the way. Listen, I think I couldn't say luck is involved because sometimes it's the right product, with the right buyer who's out there looking to expand a portfolio. So that's why being part of a global world and tracking what's going on in your industry or in the specialized area where you have a product, being aware of what's moving, what they're selling for, and getting good advisors. Having a sales advisor, you're not good at selling yourself. Quite often you're not the right person to be selling your business. Having somebody a little bit aside from you to help you negotiate the process is really, really useful.
So we mentioned several things that are really important for ecosystem, and we do have enablers of ecosystem here. So we've been talking about human capital, we've been talking about necessity to become more visible to outside world, we've been talking about necessity to cooperate, but we also think that besides enablers of ecosystem, state and governments have some role to play in helping out. So Vukašin, what do you think? What are the good practices that can help actually yield success?
By the government or in general?
Start with the government, because
Yeah.
StartIt is a member of Digital Serbia, so this is an important organization here.
Yeah,
that knows a lot.
I think that the folks from Digital Serbia would like me very much to point out that Digital Serbia is not part of the government, although it does consult the government on many important topics, obviously including policy. So I would say that the Serbian government has done an absolutely amazing job in creating what today we think is the successful tech industry in Serbia. The fact that it was unintended is irrelevant, perhaps. And of course, I'm referring to the very, let's say, flexible and low taxation of tech workers, which has been through what would be said in Serbian as paušalne agencije. So this has been, by every observer in the tech industry, an amazing boost. And probably what we today refer to as a tech boom in Serbia would not exist without that. So I would say that what the government can do now is to either preserve this model of operations or replace it with a model that continues to support the development of the tech industry. Because I don't know, if we take a look at some of the most developed tech ecosystems in the world, let's take Silicon Valley and Tel Aviv, for instance. We will see that
30 seconds, we are...
Oh, okay.
Carry on.
Yeah, the government played a role there, and I would just like to say that while we're on the topic, education, as you noted earlier, is crucial. And what we've seen in recent years is a lot of investment and great policy around that, including but not limited to having programming as a compulsory subject in elementary school. The next step, the most important step, which goes to both Patricia's and Jan's point, would be to get entrepreneurship into schools as well. Because if we just remain, so it's a slang word in the tech community, code monkeys, then the amount of value that we'll be able to create will be severely capped.
I'm negotiating to have 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. Hey, negotiations went well. Okay, so as a final note, we've been talking about investment gap, and we do want to see this region playing more prominently when it comes to foreign investors. And let me just show you, just to tease you a bit. We made a formula, and I hope that you can read it. I mean, it's a simple formula. So if you invest X, Y in this region, over the years, 5 years' time, this is how much you get, and this is how much, for example, investments in Western Europe is getting back to us. So we can really show you that this region is worth at least looking at and probably investing in it. And my last question to all of you, but please be quick because we have this 1.5 minutes now. What do you think should be done next? But really like one next thing to ensure success and quantum leap of the startup ecosystem in Serbia and in the region?
Money. I think more venture, more money and a community supporting more money, basically, because you're going to burn it, but you have to burn it to win in the next round. You have to burn the money.
Experiments. We teach and preach people to experiment and learn from it and then to scale. So more experiments for ecosystem that will show us what's the model.
Entrepreneurship in schools, because then startups will follow and money will follow.
Just working together, Frame and all the others have scalable technology. It's cloud-based, internet-based, but we need to develop international sales and pre-sales, business develop internationally.
Make things simpler in moving people and moving money. And when I look at this slide, for example, this is a very technical Serbian slide. If this slide was presented in the US, it would have many pictures and colors. I don't understand that, but you know, starting there.
Okay, flowers. We'll do it next time. Thank you so much to all of you, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, panelists. One more. Hello, guys. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Pavle, and one of the things I'm in charge today is keeping the agenda tight and flowing, and just keeping it on time. So you see me showing people number of minutes they got on the stage, and also kind of pushing you in the sessions. So just as an FYI. So I know for a lot of you, it's been an early morning start, and we had to have an early morning start of the conference because we had so many different things we want to say and kind of contribute to. So I know on all the conferences, there's always kind of a question of, okay, how do we get energized, and how do we stretch ourselves out and keep our juices flowing so we can stay focused. So I'll ask you to participate in a very short exercise with me, and then we're going to have a 10-minute break. So I like you first to kind of stretch out, just kind of put your hands up, reach for the sky, reach for that investment, get there, okay. So now kind of stretch it down a bit, and then kind of, it's very important, especially speaking about the ecosystem and those things, to have a rhythm and kind of know where our people are. So I'll ask you just to kind of follow with me. So you just have one and then 2 times. And then do this. And then again. Louder. Like you mean it. Okay, 10 minutes break, go grab a coffee and see you back here.